Good evening and welcome to the April 4th, 2023 regular meeting of Findlay City Council. We will start this evening's meeting with roll call, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Mr. Baumann?
Here.
Ms. Frischi? Mr. Greeno?
Here.
Mr. Hellman?
Here.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Slough?
Here.
Ms. Warnicki?
Here.
And Mr. Wobser?
Present.
Ms. Frischi contacted me earlier and said she wasn't going to be able to attend. Mr. Russell.
Move to excuse Councilwoman Frischi.
Second, Mr. Baumann. All those in favor of excusing Ms. Frischi, say aye. Any opposed, nay. She is excused from tonight's meeting. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will entertain a motion to accept the previous minutes. Mr. Slough.
I move to have the minutes approved, circulated.
Second, Mr. Niemeyer. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the previous meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. They are accepted. Mr. Russell, do we have any add-ons, replacements, or removals from tonight's agenda?
Yes, sir. We have removals of the letter from City Engineer Kalb concerning police body-worn cameras. That's in the reports of municipal officers and municipal departments section, and a removal of ordinance 2023-039 in the legislation section. We have, which is for, 2023-039 is for police department body-worn camera program. Replacement of ordinance 2023-027 as amended, the ARPA demolition program. Added, the only change there was the addition of parcel numbers to each property in section 1. And additionally, add-on ordinance 2023-040, a contract extension for planning next. And I would move that the two items be removed and the one ordinance be replaced and the one ordinance be added on.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the changes as proposed, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The agenda is changed as proposed. We do have a proclamation tonight.
Whereas Parkinson's disease affects 1 million people in the United States, it is the second most common neurodegenerative disease, is believed to be caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors, and is a leading cause of death according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas it is estimated that Parkinson's costs the United States $58 billion every year, of which the federal government shoulders $29 billion, leaving American families to cover the remaining $29 billion every year. It is estimated that by the year 2037, the number of people with Parkinson's in the United States will nearly double, and the disease will cost the United States at least $79 billion every year. And whereas the symptoms of Parkinson's disease can include movement issues such as balance, slowness and gait, freezing in place, speech and handwriting difficulties, non-movement symptoms of depression, dementia and cognitive impairment, speech difficulties, losing the sense of smell or taste, swallowing changes, and a variety of other symptoms. And whereas numerous clinical drug trials and research by the Michael J. Fox Foundation and the Parkinson's Foundation, the Davis Phinney Foundation, and others are working hard hand in hand with federal and state efforts to identify causes of Parkinson's in an effort to one day prevent Parkinson's disease. And whereas more research and increased education and awareness and community support services are needed to find better treatments and a cure, as well as maintain dignity for those living with the disease today. Now, therefore, I, Christina Emmer, Mayor of the City of Findlay, Ohio, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Parkinson's Awareness Month in Findlay, Ohio, and encourage citizens to increase their understanding of the disease and support people living with Parkinson's. I believe we have some individuals here who are here to accept the proclamation.
My name is Barb Matheny, and I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. So thank you, Madam Mayor and council members, for joining other people around the world in recognizing April as Parkinson's Awareness Month. The first World Parkinson's Day was held in 1997 to commemorate the birthday of Dr. James Parkinsons, who was the very first physician to recognize Parkinson's as a medical condition. This declaration will help educate the public about Parkinson's disease and the many people in our community who do have it. Every day, advocates, health professionals, and caregivers work to improve the lives of those affected by this disease, including the people that are living with it, their families, and friends. Promoting awareness and education is key to finding a cure. A month ago, I started a community action committee. This is made up of leaders, some of which who are here in attendance today, representing a wide range of experiences and different backgrounds. Creating healthy Parkinson's communities throughout the United States is an initiative with the Davis-Finney Foundation. Our purpose will be to explore and improve how Finley embraces and supports people living with Parkinson's and ensure that all people have the opportunity to live well with the disease. This proclamation and planning events in our community for the month of April was our first step towards reaching this goal. We have tables at the YMCA, 50 North, and soon at the library with information available for people to pick up on different topics of interest and help for them. There will be a free Parkinson's exercise class followed by a luncheon and speaker on April 20th at 50 North at 11 o'clock. The new Rocksteady Boxing Program class at the YMCA will offer a free class and demonstrations. On April 26th, there will be a free screening of strength, balance, coordination, swallowing, and voice control at 50 North from 1 to 3 o'clock. Church bulletins and reader boards are also in place. In addition, there is a monthly support group and many ongoing classes that are available. The Courier will be featuring these events with more information. I have an amazing committee who is able to pull this all together in 1 month's time. In conclusion, I'll end with a quote from the Davis-Finney Foundation. Imagine living in a community where Parkinson's leadership is strong, where everyone living with Parkinson's, such as myself, have access to quality care, support, and resources so they can live well with Parkinson's every day. Where people affected by Parkinson's have a sense of belonging and purpose. They feel seen and supported and are engaged in civic life. And we're having a great quality of life despite having a chronic progressive disease is prioritized by all. This is a reality we can hope to help create in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Thank you very much. Okay, we do not have any recognition or retirement resolutions. We have no petitions this evening. We do have several oral communications. We have 4 in support of the YMCA, 4 in not support of the YMCA, and 1 other. Mr. Russell.
Move that council's statutory rules limiting speakers to 3 on each side of an issue be waived and all speakers be allowed to speak tonight.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to start with Stephanie Parsons, who is the Executive Director of the YMCA. And a reminder that you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you allowing me time to join you tonight. My name is Stephanie Parsons, and I'm the CEO of the Findlay YMCA. I'd like to start by thanking members of the City Council for allowing the YMCA to submit an application for the demolition program, which would allow us to accelerate our capital project. This would include an innovative new child development center providing affordable, reliable childcare. The Finley YMCA has been a good neighbor and a partner in this community for more than 100 years, including more than 65 years in our current facility at 300 East Lincoln Street. I've had the pleasure of not only working for the YMCA, but my family has been a member of the YMCA for more than 20 years. The Y has impacted my life and my children's life in so many ways. My children learn lifelong lessons through the Child Development Center. Not only did the dedicated staff shape their character, they also taught them how to swim. Life is a journey. It has peaks and it has valleys. And in the valley of my family's journey, the Y carved an incredible path. The Y showed my family that true empathy still happens and that the valley is less harsh when you step through the Y doors. It has provided us hope through so many life struggles, and for that, I am incredibly grateful for the YMCA. But I am not only the only, but I am the only one of thousands of other stories of people who have been impacted by the YMCA in our community. I am so passionate about our mission. I love the work that we do in our community, and our members, partners, and friends that walk through the door bring me joy every single day I show up for work. I can't even begin to tell you how much it hurt my heart to listen to the comments, accusations, and false information that I've heard about the YMCA over the past few weeks. So I want to begin tonight by telling you about the important work your Findlay YMCA does and do every day in our community. Over the last year, the YMCA, in partnership with United Way, has provided over 115,000 free weekend meals and 2,000 free summer lunches to school-age children through our Feed a Child program. The YMCA provides scholarship for those individuals and families who wish to use our facility as part of their healthy living plan, but who can't afford our membership fees. The YMCA also provides free memberships to foster children and their families. The YMCA is a leader in child care development in Hancock County. We provide affordable, reliable child care to workers in our community, including 40% of our families that qualify for government support child care through the state of Ohio. Did you know that drowning are the #1 cause of death in children? Your Finley Family YMCA provides affordable swim lessons to help ensure that every kid can learn essential skills to help stay safe, develop confidence, and have fun in and around the water. We're the only provider of lifeguard training in Hancock County. And speaking of youth, the YMCA also has more than 2,400 children that participate in youth sports leagues, including soccer, swimming, basketball, and volleyball. The YMCA is committed to empowering kids to lead healthy, active lifestyles. From gaining confidence to building positive relationships with adults and kids alike, sports at the YMCA about developing lifelong healthy habits from inside out. The YMCA summer camp is attended every year by 2,000 children in our community who look forward to the opportunity to spend time and gain new friends while exploring the outside. The YMCA is also an important community partner, working with various schools and not-for-profits to make our facility accessible to everyone. For our example, we invite all individuals that participate in Special Olympics to join the YMCA for free.
Mr. Russell.
Move to grant the speaker additional time to finish her remarks.
Second, Mr. Hellman. And discussion, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. All right, continue.
Thank you, Council. Individuals that participate in sports or Special Olympics to join the YMCA for free, and we also partner with Children's Mentoring Connection to allow youth and mentors to come to the YMCA and no charge to enjoy quality time together. These are just a few examples of the work we're doing to strengthen our community. We invite everyone to check us out online or visit us in person. We are a Y for all, and we're looking forward to reimagining our facility to better serve our community. As our community continues to evolve and grow, so does the Y's need for a facility that has the capacity to meet those needs and more. Over time, it was clear that the Findlay YMCA would need to evolve to continue to best serve the needs of our community. We believe that time has come. Our community need for a safe, affordable childcare is urgent, and the Findlay Family YMCA is uniquely positioned to meet the need that will allow more of our residents to return to the workforce. Over the last 10 years, the Findlay YMCA has acquired properties around our existing facility in anticipation of eventually needing additional space. I've heard people say that the Y was being sneaky in our purchase of those homes, but these properties were purchased and recorded with the auditor's office just as any other home purchased within the county. It's all public record. Earlier this year, when the opportunity to apply for a funding for the demolition of these structures became available through the City of Finley, we submitted an application believing that our properties were a good fit for the intent of the program. Like all applicants, the YMCA submitted a comprehensive application package and worked in partnership with the Hancock Regional Planning Commission to have a Section 106 review conducted on the proposed properties and surrounding area to ensure we were in compliance for the appropriate use of federal funds. We truly believe that the use of these funds would have profound community impact. As a resident who lives near the YMCA in a historical home dating back to the early 1900s, I share a passion for history of our community, and that is why it was important to me that the YMCA complete the due diligence on our properties. We've also heard the community's concerned about using federal dollars for this type of work, but using public dollars for this projects like this includes important safeguards for our community's resources and treasures that private dollar simply does not require. Through the Section 106 review, we've learned that 2 of the properties in the surrounding area have been identified as having historical significance. The property owned by the Tharp family at 320 East Hardin Street, not owned by the YMCA and not slated for demolition, and 404 East Lincoln Street, which is owned by the YMCA. Public fund would require the YMCA to develop and evaluate project alternatives that would avoid minimizing or mitigating the adverse effects on historical properties, but private funding does not. Well, it's clear that there are individuals in our community who feel passionate about the structures that we have purchased over the years. We are passionate about utilizing the land that we own in a way that helps us serve more of our community and maximize our impact for everyone. Although our capital project is in the early stages, we're really excited to begin rolling this project out to the public soon. With over 200 children and infants on child care wait list around the county, an innovative best-in-class child development center will help provide a safe, affordable, reliable place for children to be cared for while their parents, guardians, and caretakers return to work. Our new child development center will also help train more workers in child care field to continuously strengthen our workforce in an effort to prevent future staffing shortages in the child care providers around Northwest Ohio. Thank you again for your work in the community and your time and effort you dedicate to make Findlay a better place to work, live, and thrive. The Findlay YMCA shares your passion and dedication to our community, and we appreciate your due diligence on the important decisions you make as good stewards of our community's resources. We hope you have better understanding of a positive impact the Findlay YMCA and our upcoming capital project have in our community. This important project will continue to move forward. But at this time, in an effort not to negatively impact our fellow applicants and stand in the way of progress, we would respectfully request that the ordinance be amended to remove the YMCA's property from consideration of the demolition program. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Stephanie. Second this evening is Sarah Zur.
Hello, I am Sarah Roberts Zur, and I currently reside at 459 Pembroke Drive. Honorable members of City Council, I speak today not asking any action on part of the council, but as a show of support for the YMCA. As a member and donor to the Y, I appreciate their foresight and initiative in purchasing nearby houses to fulfill the goal of a much-needed expansion or improvements for the future of the Y. The fact that the YMCA was ready to act and make the most of federal resources to further accelerate and accomplish these goals should be praised, not villainized. A few members of the community have declared a specific building to have significant historical value. The value of an item can only be determined by the amount of resources, to include, but not limited to financial, that an individual or group is willing to use to protect or purchase that item. If unsupported by action or a willingness to invest, a group of outside individuals claiming that something is valuable doesn't make it so. The YMCA saw the value in purchasing the properties nearby their current facilities and acted. Why should they be penalized because the other entities view an item's value differently, but took no action to secure or preserve the item themselves? Other members of the community have spoken out against using federal COVID-19 recovery funds to assist in the demolition of nearby buildings. On the National Association of Counties website that describes the funds stemming from the American Rescue Plan Act, the very first use case for funding is to strengthen our communities by investing in small businesses and nonprofits. The YMCA is an open doors nonprofit that provides subsidized childcare, collaborates with partners to ensure school children are fed, connects community programming, and provides local youth with the opportunity to generate lifelong habits with the participation in sports and physical activities. The Y strengthens our community, and there is a clear public health impact of supporting and enhancing the future of our local YMCA. The Finley YMCA plays a vital role in our community by providing access to a wide range of programs and services that goes beyond promoting physical fitness. From social development and personal growth to job training, the Y offers activities for members of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities. Our Y is a community resources that is dedicated to enhancing Finley. An investment in the YMCA is an investment in our future. I'm proud to be a member of the Finley Family YMCA, and I look forward to supporting the Y and all of its initiatives for years to come. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Sarah. Next is Christina Mailer. Is Christina here? Okay. Next would be Kelly Schroll.
Council, good evening. My name is Kelly Schroll, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the YMCA. I am a YMCA board member and health professional who actively utilizes the YMCA downtown facility on a weekly basis. As a YMCA board member, I have an opportunity to see firsthand the great work of the YMCA. As Stephanie pointed out, the YMCA has a variety of programs that support our youth development and families in our community. We reach over 2,000 children in our youth sports programs, as well as our Feed a Child program. The YMCA lives out its mission and vision to support a healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. As a health professional, I personally know individuals whose lives have been changed by living a healthy lifestyle through YMCA programs that encourage healthy living and promote an active lifestyle. Clinical results have proven that a simple decrease of 10 pounds of body weight can significantly improve or lower health risk factors such as high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and other conditions. In 2021, Hancock County conducted the Community Needs Assessment. Those results indicated that 34% of our adults are obese between the ages of 30 and 64. And the number of individuals who are diabetic is on the rise. 13% in our community compared to 9% in 2015. It's important that our future adults, our kids, regardless of economic status, learn healthy living habits now. The YMCA helps our kids learn to enjoy an active lifestyle, build confidence, and find strength in their bodies. The YMCA is a comprehensive fitness facility that provides a wide variety of activities such as swimming lessons, team sports, and individual fitness equipment for health and fitness needs. As I previously mentioned, I'm a regular exerciser at the Y. As such, I see the conditions of our facilities and appreciate the leadership of the YMCA, who are planning a brighter future. Our facilities are aging in need of care. Built in the 1960s, our swimming pools need repair and continuously require maintenance to provide services. The YMCA capital project is based on a vision that will require us to expand our footprint, allowing us to continue to serve and grow and meet the needs of an expanding community. For these reasons, I believe the YMCA is a critical resource to our community now and in the future. While I know that we are withdrawing our request for demolition funds, I would appreciate your continued support for the continued growth of the YMCA. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Kelly. Okay, Dave Hindel would like to speak tonight.
Good evening. He's already told you who I am, and you probably think I had my nose where it shouldn't be, and it got hit. But yesterday, the CEO of the YMCA, Stephanie, called and came to my home to discuss the Y's plans and my concerns about the homes on East Hardin Street. I reminded her that one of the goals of the founders of the YMCA was to provide affordable housing. In many larger cities, they rented rooms. This looks like, to me, a golden opportunity for the YMCA to do so with the Hardin Street properties. This might be a conflict of interest and may be covered by state code, I don't know. But anyways, also, and this is not specific to any individual, it's just a comment, and it's not a judgment either. I was also surprised to learn that the mayor of a city could be on the YMCA board. It seemed like it might be a conflict of interest. Overall, the meeting went well. The YMCA CAO said the Y should have been more transparent. She showed me a overlay print of the buildings, but no definite plans. If built, the new YMCA, I understand, would face on East Hardin Street. Now, as many of you know, it's a dead-end street, and I can imagine the traffic, because I live right close to East Street, and it's already a kind of a traffic nightmare at times. This may be la-la land, but I thought I heard Stephanie say maybe some of the Hardin properties could be saved. Also attending the meeting was Eric Van Renningham. And Eric is an expert on this area and his concerns. Maybe a better plan can be devised. Why not build a new YMCA on East Lincoln Street? They already own those properties, and they're all vacant, and better access to traffic. So thank you. I hope we can save our neighborhood. I'm passionate about it. I've lived there 45 years. It's a pleasant place to live. So that's my thinking. Thank you.
Any questions for David? Hearing none. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Next will be Eric Van Rutterham.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, spectators. sitting back there listening to the YMCA, I took offense to the fact that makes it sound like I am anti-YMCA. I'm not. I've got a niece that works there. Ron Ammons is my best friend. I did Y activity. It has nothing to do with the activity. They do good things for the community. It has to do with the whole idea, how this whole process started, which was sneaky in the background. Going forward without presenting the plan, maybe have a neighborhood meeting with those surrounding and have a proposal instead of just buying properties up. It's like having the cart before the horse. We'll buy them up quietly while we can, and we can get them cheaper. The moment they find out we're going to do this, the values will go up, and that's a possibility. So we don't have any houses here that George Washington slept in or Abraham Lincoln was at our courthouse. We don't have the Liberty Bell, but we have individuals in this town that build our town. We have Mr. and Mr. Joe Fassett Lumber Company, own 4 properties on East Hardin Street. Lincoln Groves, who was a mayor, 2-term mayor, and a sheriff, which is unusual, lived on East Hardin Street. We have Mabel Cusick and her sister. For those who remember Tasty Taters, they have a property behind the Jones Mansion that Mr. Jones actually owned at one time on East Sandusky, and he didn't tear things down. He moved it back behind his property and kept it. And the Cusicks used to love to tell people they live in E.P. Jones's house. So it's kind of a neat thing. Howard Moyer, who was with the Courier and the Photo Center, lived there. I went to school with the son, who was the vice president of Dana. Phil and Tammy Rooney had a pool there. And Andy McGregor had the brick house in the alley, and Andy McGregor spent $50,000 years ago redoing that alley and made a beautiful property. I remember 20 years ago, parties on that street and people coming and going and children. So it was a vibrant neighborhood. And another house, I think it was the Model Flint Company, one of the Finley glass companies. He built a house there also, which I owned years ago, which is a duplex. And he owned that house. So to say that there's, any lack of historical significance, there is, but history is not have to be something grand and austere. It's got to be something that we all can kind of embrace from the bottom up. So I just want to read you some of those names. So I guess I'm surprised in meeting with the CEO the other day, and she mentioned some things, and it was a very good meeting, and we got along greatly. And when she mentioned the ARPA funds, and I'm just pleasantly surprised they're going to pull the funds. They don't want the funds, which is part of the problem, but still it's the whole process. So, this can't happen again. You cannot have nonprofits or for-profits buy properties up just to, they have an idea, like tearing down all the houses we mentioned from the Basioner house to the Russell's house on 1200 South Main Street. What's preventing people from buying those and tearing those down if they got the money? Oh, sure, things could get a little, craggy, but it just doesn't make sense. There's an architect who said, I'd rather study old buildings because I'd rather learn from the people who built the civilizations than those who tear it down. So I guess you want to be known as a community for what we used to have. I've got a book I published 12 years ago called Looking Up that the school kids used to use, absorbing architecture, and probably 8 or 9 of those buildings are gone in the last 10 or 12 years. So it's, it's kind of a sad. So I just wish that we as a community would not, it's not name calling, because once again, I have nothing against the Y, but to say nasty things were said about you. Nothing's nasty been said, just upset about the whole process and the lack of transparency and the concerns of those such issues. So please, it's about feeling a part of something big, as was quoted by the YMCA. It's the values of caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility dedicated to giving people of all ages. And I applaud the Y. They do great things, but maybe next time, I don't know, do your due diligence. Maybe properties, maybe elsewhere that could be served elsewhere, because I would imagine that part of the property, the people that go to the Y are members of Marathon that use it during the day, which is great. That's a great activity. So I don't know what the answer is. We just can't continue down this avenue anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Van Rutterham.
I thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Thank you, Council.
Next will be Rob Tong.
Well, I guess thank you for having me be here again today. Obviously, I love Findlay history. With all my years with the Historical Museum, 25 as a board member, I appreciate and I like educating the public about our past, because Findlay, Ohio truly has a wonderful past. I don't agree with some of the things that have been said about the Y. I believe the Y has good intentions, and anybody who says they don't really doesn't know what they're talking about, because even 100 years ago, the Y had good intentions. I don't maybe agree with the way some of the things were handled. I would like to see something in legislation to be changed to protect our history. It doesn't matter if it's the Y. I mean, obviously, those houses have been set dormant. The renters have been kicked out. The houses have been set out there with the screens cockeyed, the windows up, the couches laying on the front seats, on the porches. But yet everybody in the city of Findlay who has a car that's set for a half a year gets a ticket. Why didn't what happened with the Y? They're making an illusion to make it didn't really look good. The gas meters have been yanked. It's ready to get rid of these houses. I don't really agree with that. Findlay has some really amazing things in its history. Obviously, the biggest growth spurt in Findlay's history was during the gas boom days from 1886 to 1890. We went from a populace of 4,000 to 15 to almost 20,000 in 3 years. Today we're talking about we can't build or don't have enough houses, but yet we got money that the city is sort of pitching in to tear our houses down. If we can tear the houses down with our money, why can't we use those to preserve them? We have Michael Owens lived here in Findlay. Michael Owens changed the entire world with a bottle machine to build bottles. And his house location today is green space. Gone. How many people can you educate about that? You've got the United States' highest military honor that you could ever get in American history, the Congressional Medal of Honor. And the first one was Scott, killed and hung, Findlay, Ohio. The highest honor in military history. What do we have? A little gravestone out at Maple Grove? I don't really agree with this. I don't think when we're talking about potentially building a new courthouse for the probate, yeah, that was an early church in Findlay's history. It's a beautiful old building. It might be a little bit too small. But you're also talking the journalists that were dealing with those first Findlay papers. David Locke was complimented by Abraham Lincoln as his favorite journalist. What a perfect way to educate the public than to do it in a place that the Courier and the Hemier family had at one time. I mean, so what I'd like to see is maybe we can create something to protect against this type of stuff happening. I don't have all the right answers, but all those people that changed the world for us, do you think they would just want to have all that stuff tore down? Because just like today's modern kids, if you don't educate it, they'll never learn it, and they'll never appreciate it. That's why the Love Findlay History site has over 6,000 people being educated by me every day. It seems small, but it's something that should be done. And I think the city should come up with a plan so we don't have big money or maybe the city pitching towards things because what's important to you may not be important to them or vice versa. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Questions or comments from Mr. Tong? Thank you, Rob. Next is Sarah Foltz. Sarah here. Okay.
My name is Sarah Foltz, and I live with my partner on East Hardin Street. A former tenant of a home slated to be demolished actually made me aware in 2020 that the home I live in now was up for sale. And they had pride in the neighborhood, and as do I. Over the last 2.5 years in the neighborhood, the south side of the street mysteriously became quiet. It became more and more evident that these homes were not being maintained. You've heard from a number of property owners from this area recently, and they have told you that these properties were not blighted and definitely didn't appear that way until semi-recently. I am concerned that the ARPA funds will be utilized for something they were not intended for. If all of the listed houses owned by the YMCA were already blighted prior to acquisition, I would not be here. If this ordinance is approved today, we are rewarding an organization, or are we rewarding an organization for buying up affordable housing and then allowing them to deteriorate over the years? If this is a precedent we want to set, I'm disappointed. Our mayor confirmed at the first reading that the YMCA will have to go through the City Planning Commission and work through the required process for any projects after the demolition takes place. Are we okay with helping fund the demolition of half a neighborhood before knowing if all of the future plans will be approved? If the property owner decides not to do anything with the land, are we okay with funding the loss of affordable housing all for naught? Our community desperately needs affordable housing. How could the demolition of all the properties owned by the Y not result in a net loss of affordable housing? And I understand the law director determined it is legal to forego the stipulations of the ARPA funds like this one, but is it ethical? I also understand the ARPA funds are intended to help communities with remediation, to create additional affordable housing. Is this being considered, or will it be? I venture to guess there are property owners that would greatly benefit from these funds to make structures livable again, as well as maintain current structures before we lose even more affordable housing. Why are we utilizing these funds for demolition before assisting with creation and reinforcement of our affordable housing? I feel that it is necessary to point out that when the demolition program was approved by council at the end of last year, it went live immediately the next day. Online, there was an announcement on social media and one local media push that I could find. This all took place over the holidays, I might add, and potential applicants had seemingly one chance that first week to learn about the opportunity, with only 1 month to determine if they might be interested or even eligible to apply. The application process also requires 2 quotes from different contractors for the proposed demolition. If I were applying, I would have to hope that 2 different companies would be available to provide me an estimate in time. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you were lucky enough to learn about this grant program, 1 month to fulfill this application successfully appears unrealistic. And here we are today, the 3rd reading, to approve over half of the demolition program's grant dollars to one organization in our community. My last point, I'm genuinely concerned about the conflict of interest here. Our mayor currently serves on the board for the Y. We're among former YMCA board members here as well. And on March 7th, Councilman Slough, straight from the minutes, you pointed out that when you were board president of the YMCA back in 2005 with Russ Gardner, they had the same plans to do what is being talked about doing today. So it is his opinion that it was reached the point in time that council should move forward with this because it would be a great addition to the downtown, a great recruiting tool for the businesses that are thinking about coming into the community. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm disappointed at how many comments like this one I've heard in the last month. It amplifies my concern that the way our city intends to use these funds is not ethical, and I'm disappointed that the original intention of these funds can seemingly be thrown out the window. I have no animosity toward the growth of the YMCA, truly. This ordinance is not about the Y. I'm only here regarding the properties under their care slated to be demolished with the assistance of ARPA funds, and I think the request to withdraw from these funds is appropriate and honorable. However, if you find focus only on the future of the Y, when making your decision today, please consider how there's other land in our community. Affordable housing and structures holding Finley's history is limited, though. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, the last one, I'm not sure if he came in, Justin Beatty. He wanted to speak about something totally opposite, but he is a no-show, so. Okay, that concludes our oral communication. We will now move on to written communications.
A letter from Vice President of Student Affairs and Athletics at the University of Findlay, Brandy Loretta, on behalf of members of the Findlay Family YMCA Board of Directors.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
A letter from Ohio History Connection letter to Hancock Regional Planning Commission, Section 106, effect finding City of Findlay demolition program, Findlay, Hancock County, Ohio.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed. Reports of municipal officers and departments.
Board of Zoning Appeals minutes for January 12th, 2023, as well as February 9th, 2023.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
A letter from Assistant City Engineer Roush regarding the Strick Center.
Questions or comments? Letter to be, oh, sorry, Mr. Wobser.
Jeremy or Rob, I know I had asked about this. I guess we can pick this up now. We can pick it up with the new legislation that's back on the table tonight. One of the things that had come up in the newspaper a couple weeks ago was the cost overruns on this project, and I was hoping that we could get a quick recap of where we're at cost-wise versus where we originally thought we were going to be and how we got from A to B.
I'm going to ask Assistant Engineer, the project manager for this, Lee Roush, to come up and kind of give us a few points on that, more specific for your question.
Make sure the mic's on and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Lee Roush, Assistant City Engineer in Findlay, Ohio. The original construction estimate for this project was $1,164,000 approximately. This was an estimate made from schematic design drawings, and at the time there was 20% added for conceptual design. So it was a very preliminary estimate of when it was made. The total construction cost is $1,567,797, or about $403,000, and a little more over the estimate, which is about 35%. The estimate assumes spring of 2022 construction. With normal inflation, we could expect an estimate to be 5 to 10% low by adding a year. With the past couple of years being anything but normal, 35% is probably in line. In addition to this, we value engineered almost $168,000 out of the construction cost, and we did add a little over $13,000 for exhaust ventilation, which wasn't in there. These weren't cost overruns as noted by Councilman. They were estimated costs based on obtaining quotes from many different contractors. I got a list of also prepared of the number of bids solicited and the number submitted. So I wouldn't say cost overruns. To me, a cost overrun is you got a project at a set price and then it goes above and beyond that. We didn't have a set price until we got the construction costs in. So it was over the initial budget, but as I stated, this was initially started around 2019. We all know inflation has just been out of control in the last several years. So I do not believe that 35% over that budget on a schematic phase design is a real surprise. We've seen that in many of our other construction projects. Our asphalt costs, our concrete costs, in general, all of our construction costs have risen significantly.
So thank you for that recap. So let me just make sure I've got my numbers right here. The initial estimate that was given to us by the contractor that was that won the bid was 1.164.
No, that is not correct. That was an estimate provided by our criteria architect before we got into design. That was a schematic design of a building footprint and some interior layout work. Was not by the contractor.
Okay, so the contractor, though, at some point gave us a number because we graded them and picked a contractor, correct?
No, that is not correct. We picked a contractor based on qualifications. We went through a quality-based selection process. We had put it out public advertisement. We have, I believe, 4 different contractors, general contractors submitted packages. We shortlisted those down. We interviewed them with a selection committee. We scored them. We picked who we felt was best qualified for the project without consideration of cost.
Very good. So then additionally, you value engineered, which is a nice way or a very cool way of saying you got rid of additional costs for $168,000, correct?
We got rid of costs because the design build process allows us to work with contractors and subcontractors. Rather than having a design package we send out for bid, they bid on it. We can work with the contractors, with the architect, hand in hand, and there may be a better way of building something. An architect designs it one way and contract says, well, I can build it for less money this way, or vice versa. So it was a give and take. We met with the architect, the contractor, some of the subs, and
Sure.
reduced prices on some items without reducing quality of what we were getting.
Absolutely. So about, you said 168,000?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly, ballpark. It's hard to tell exactly when you do that.
Well, it's exactly $167,782. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I'll round up to 168, my initial number.
That's fine. Yes.
So with that number, and we're 1.16 to 1.05, 400,000 plus your 100K, we're just short of $500,000 over.
No, we're 400,000 over.
Well, we're 400,000
Over that initial.
but if you add in your value engineering, which you cut back on your
Sure.
costs, right?
Yes.
So you're about $500,000.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Very good. And now so you're reintroducing legislation tonight. And the reason for that, again, is?
An oversight on my part. When I wrote up my initial legislation request, I did not have appropriation of funds included. So last council meeting, it was voted to approve of the contract, but we don't have the funds appropriated. So again, my oversight, I don't normally do this. Jeremy normally does. You get your letters from him, but as he's stated many times, as a conflict, he is not involved in this project. So it was an oversight on my part, because I don't even let him review the letters for this one. I keep him out of it. So again, I apologize for that, and that's why we're back tonight to actually get the money appropriated.
And this is our last appropriation for this, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
All right. Sure, you're welcome.
And any other questions? Letter to be filed?
Legal opinion 2023-1 on utilizing ARPA funds for demolition of the requested properties from Law Director Rasmussen.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed?
Letter from City Auditor Stashak regarding proposed changes to the salary ordinance.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed? I'm sorry, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, real quick, Jim, what's the timeline on needing this passed? Because I would think that this is something that we need to. Number one, it's not earth-shattering like other things on the agenda. Do you need this tonight?
No, we're okay. We're working through things. What we're doing is the nice thing about implementing the executive time automated pay system is it cost benefits itself just based on the savings. The other benefit that we didn't talk about when you folks were kind enough to pass it and appropriate the money was we figured we would identify some processes that might be compliance oriented or change oriented, and that's what this is. So, and rather than gather all those together and bring you one big change to the payroll ordinance, we wanted to approach these one at a time. You can do the 3 readings, and we're okay with that because as the process is in place and we have a way to account for it. But when you're done and you do ultimately pass this, which I'm sure and I hope that you will be in full compliance with regard to these issues, and those folks will be paid appropriately.
Other questions or comments? Letter to be filed?
Letter from City Engineer Kalb regarding Street Department operating budget.
Questions or comments? Mr. Wobser.
Jeremy, this is a new general fund request from our general fund meeting back in December, correct?
Yeah, so what this is like repair of roof, gutters, and all that kind of stuff. We originally had this in the capital plan.
Right.
After our discussions with the auditor's office, they decided that this needs to be actually repair and maintenance from budget. So that's why there's a transfer. If we would have known back in December, it would have been in that $100,000 would have been in that budget originally.
Very good, thank you.
Operating.
Other questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Committee reports. Committee reports.
I got one more. Body one.
We removed that from the agenda.
Oh, sorry. Committee reports.
The Strategic Planning Committee met on March 21st, 2023 to review feedback received from community groups that were contracted. Time permitting, move forward with reviewing objectives in the plan. We recommend the committee continue the strategic planning process. The committee will have a standby meeting on the first and third Tuesdays at 4 p.m. in the council chambers until the initial plan is complete.
Mr. Russell.
Move to approve the committee report.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the committee report say aye. Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted. Legislation, we'll start with resolutions.
First reading for Resolution 11, 2023. A resolution approving the expenditures made by the auditor's office on the attached list of vouchers which either exceed the purchase order or were incurred without a purchase order, exceeding the statutory limit of $3,000, all in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 5705.41D.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 11, 2023.
Second, Mr. Niemeyer. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution say aye. If your name is called, those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
The cough, I'm sorry.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser?
Aye. The resolution is adopted. Ordinances.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-27 as amended. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for demolition services related to the American Rescue Plan Act demolition program and declaring an emergency.
Ms. Warnicki.
I would like to make a motion to amend this ordinance based on the request from the, excuse me, the Y this evening to remove the properties belonging to the YMCA from this ordinance.
Second, Mr. Slough. I'm sorry. Second, Mr. Slough. Discussion. Here, I'm sorry. There's no discussion on an amendment. I'm sorry. That's my. All those in favor. Discussion on the amendment. I'm sorry. Am I correct there? Mr. Hellman.
Could I make a suggestion or a question? Can we include all the properties that have been requested to use ARPA funds? Seeing no second, I guess we can't. Okay.
I'm sorry. Whoever's speaking from the audience, that's not allowed. So, thank you. It's your meeting. You can do whatever you want, but obviously right now we have an amendment. Are we going to make an amendment to the amendment? The discussion's on the amendment. Mr. Ballman.
I guess I would just like to say that given the amendment, but I don't think that we need to make sure that our support for the YMCA and the things that they do for our community is not lost on council. And we need to, while we're removing these properties from the legislation, we need to make sure that we also support our Y moving forward. That's it.
Mr. Russell.
I support the YMCA in their plans to build a new YMCA to serve the citizens of Findlay for generations to come. I'm a member of the Y. My wife and I have supported the YMCA through decades of monthly dues payments, as well as volunteer efforts and financial support. When the time comes, I will financially support the next generation of the YMCA. One of the primary reasons I support the YMCA is because I know their programs are available to everyone, regardless of ability to pay. If a family wants to participate in a YMCA program, the YMCA is going to make sure they're going to find a way to make that happen, and I appreciate that. I value the collaboration the YMCA has with the city. Riverside Pool and the YMCA's operation of that asset of the cities has been a great partnership, one that is mutually beneficial to the city of Findlay, the YMCA, and most importantly, the citizens of Findlay. And I thank the Y for doing that year in and year out. The YMCA, as the YMCA has looked to replace their downtown facility, I know that they've been talking with other community organizations, the hospital, the city of Findlay, and I'm sure there are many others that I am unaware of, to ensure that their new facility can benefit as many people as possible. I'm especially excited about the expansion of the YMCA because of the effects it'll have on the number one economic development challenge Findlay and Hancock County faces, and that is simply workforce development. We attack that in two manners, in housing and the affordable, for example, the affordable housing projects built to the west of Tall Timbers, and that's what affordable housing is in this day and age. They are low maintenance, and believe me, living in a house that Mr. Tong has mentioned a few times on South Main, there's nothing about the older houses that are low maintenance. The workforce housing west of Tall Timbers is definitely low maintenance affordable housing. But they also provide, the YMCA provides affordable quality child care through their Child Development Center. As Stephanie mentioned, there's over 200 children on the wait list for child care in the community, and that is important. That's 200 children that potentially are preventing their parents from participating in our workforce. And in the city, we need to, all partners in the city need to look at manners to help alleviate that backlog. And the YMCA is stepping up to the table with an increased CDC, a Child Development Center. And currently, they have over 215. Over 200 children from about 150 families, 40% of them which receive financial assistance. I understand that the plans for the new YMCA is to dramatically increase the size of the CDC. And once that increased capacity is available, it'll have a direct and immediate impact on families looking for safe, affordable child care. And for that reason, and that reason alone, I support the YMCA's new facility plans. Add on top of that all of the other wonderful things that the YMCA does, and I think this plan is a winner for the community. I do appreciate the YMCA's request to remove their properties from East Hardin, once again showing that the YMCA looks to be a good community citizen. And to requote Ms. Foltz from tonight, she said it was appropriate and honorable for them to withdraw from the program, and I do appreciate the manner of which the YMCA has conducted themselves throughout this. I support so obviously I support the amendment. What I find interesting about the amendment and about this program in general is that I think the citizens of Findlay would get the most benefit from the YMCA utilizing these funds. I can't see how the citizens of Findlay and any of the objections raised from the citizens of Findlay don't apply to the other houses, other properties in the program, and for that reason, I'll support the amendment to remove the YMCA. But my support for the whole program in general won't be there. That would be a no vote when this if this ordinance is amended when it comes up for a final vote.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Mayor.
If I may, I have, tried to stay out of the conversation, but I'm fully supportive of the amendment. I do think it's appropriate just to clarify a couple of points, if only to help me sleep better at night. That I want to assure the public and the community that there is no legal conflict of interest, nor do I feel any moral conflict of interest as part of the discussion. The program was made available very transparently, and I would agree with Sarah. We had discussed putting it out multiple times depending on how much, response we got. And I would say one positive thing out of this whole debacle has been that we've received a number of phone calls from citizens asking if the program was still available. And so I'm glad to hear from Councilman Russell that the program, support for the program, because I do think that it can provide some benefit to cleaning up some neighborhoods and kind of the original intent of what we saw from it. So I just wanted to just make it very clear that from a legal perspective, I do not have a conflict of interest. I have abstained from votes when appropriate with the YMCA. they're not receiving any specific advantage. The program was very transparent in the qualifications and was approved by this group. Additionally, because I am not voting on any of the amendment or any of the dollars, there's an additional separation. But I just want to be very clear that there's not a conflict of interest on my part. And you know what, I think the program in general can be very beneficial, just as we discussed in the past, just as we've seen other communities utilize. And I agree we can do a lot to benefit and provide affordable housing, and I don't like seeing things demolished. I know I agree with Mr. Tong about providing some historical benefit and finding that balance. I know I already had a conversation with Sarah Sisser from the Historical Museum, both about, you know, can we get this facility out to other entities, so I think that there's some real opportunity. This was a learning opportunity for all involved, and I'm disappointed with how it all unfolded, but I think hopefully long term we can all find good resolution from this and recognize that one really positive thing is that we all care a lot about our community and want to make sure that we're working together, and hopefully in the end we can do that. So thank you for allowing me just to share that, and it makes me feel a little bit better.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
The ordinance is amended.
Now they vote to adopt, right? As
So-
amended.
So
But no one's made a motion yet.
if you would like to make a motion to adopt this ordinance as amended, I will listen. Mr. Baumann.
I move that the ordinance number 2023-0227 as amended be considered for passage.
Second, Mr. Russell. Discussion. Mr. Hellman.
I guess from my perspective and what I had tried to do earlier, but will do now, is to include the other houses in there, I will vote no on this remaining houses to be purchased with the ARPA funds, mainly because I don't think we have any control as to what gets built there other than it's in compliance with the zoning ordinance. So if you've got a home that is 2 stories and has somewhat historic presence, and I'm thinking specifically of the ones on, West Lincoln, they fit in well with the neighborhood, although obviously they're pretty close together, but you have no guarantee that somebody's going to come in there, buy those houses, tear them down, and put a single-story, inexpensive home in there. And to me, I think if we had some kind of a condition that it has to architecturally and aesthetically fit in with the neighborhood, it would be much better. That's my only concern about the way we're going about this. And if we had maybe a land bank or some other entity that was out there to control or improve what gets constructed, I'd be in favor of it. But as I understand it, that we don't. That's my comment, and if anybody wants to correct me, I'm open to it. Otherwise, I'll probably vote no.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance as amended, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman?
No.
Mr. Niemeyer? Nay. Mr. Palmer?
Nay.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Mr. Slough?
Nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Nay.
Mr. Wobser?
Nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Nay.
And Mr. Greeno?
Nay.
Everybody's nay.
The ordinance is not adopted.
So what happens?
That's it.
It's defeated, or?
It's defeated, yeah. Okay, next.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-30, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids and enter into contracts so that American Rescue Plan Act funds may be utilized to purchase various items for designated various projects listed below, appropriating and transferring funds thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Palmer.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2023-030.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2023-32. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to enter into contracts for the purchase of a replacement generator for the city of Findlay water treatment plant, appropriating and transferring funds thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Wobser.
Jeremy, did we have a chance to get any additional information on the buying group?
Yeah, so I contacted, or I kind of did some research on Sourcewell and stuff. So it is a competitive entity that is used by public entities. So it would be cities, schools, and stuff like that can use it. So it's pretty much for governmental purposes. What they do is they send out RFQs nationwide pretty much through that. And they are going through the whole process like what we would do in a competitive bid with an RFQ or RFP process as well. They send out solicitations, get back all those, review them, and then they do a contract with whoever the vendor is. So in this situation, it'd be Caterpillar. So what that is with Caterpillar's agreement per their contract, and I can provide copies of their contract as well. They go off of what their list price is, and then they give a discount on top of that. So we were able to, back in December, we had a quote from CAT for the generator, and it was roughly $455,000. And then once we went through the Sourcewell, kind of working what we have, we're at $450,000. So it was a $5,000 savings on that. I know it's not much with the grand scheme of things, but kind of what the Sourcewell does, it's a competitive bid, but what you're doing is leveraging kind of their whole nationwide company instead of just one small dealership. We're still going to be purchasing from a local dealership. So in this situation, it would be the Perrysburg dealership. We would be purchasing from them, but it would be they would be agreeing to the Sourcewell contract. Couple other cities that have used this locally in the past year. City Toledo has bought and these are all generators. City Toledo has bought one. Wood County has bought two. Allen County, Lucas, Sandusky, and Wyandotte County have all bought generators through this. So this is just another source for us to use. It was publicly bid out. It was kind of more of a nationwide. Why we kind of wanted to go with this too is just because of the 90-week lead time. If we go through and have a contractor buy it, then they are going to have to kind of mark up their price for a 2 years build before we can actually put this in. So what we're doing is buying the equipment now, so that way we can get that moving, and then once it gets, we will bid out the the installation of that on top of that. So this is a source for us to get that piece of equipment through a competitive bid.
So through Sourcewell, you're still going to have the 90-week lead time, though, correct?
Yeah, no matter what. No matter what on that, we're going to have that lead time.
And you're saying that Sourcewell is doing a competitive bid, but I'm confused between the competitive bid and I'm sorry, not Case, who was the manufacturer of the Cat. And you're saying Cat though is giving you a discount off of their list price of $5,000.
Right.
So I'm not. Where does the competitive bid part come in?
So all the companies. So if it's not Cummins, Kohler, Generac, or anything like that, I don't know if Generac, but right. they submit in a proposal to this Sourcewell, and then they go through a scoring process, and then they will be evaluated off an RFP. So they'll be given proposals. So CAT's proposal was off our list price. So a list price that would go to if Councilman Russell went and bought one, it'd be the same price, but we would see that price with a discount, and that's a signed contract until I believe it's 2026. But it's a signed contract saying we will go from our list price and then give a discount on top of that.
Gotcha.
Mr. Stashek.
Hey, Mr. Wobser, to your question at the last meeting, Mr. Martin asked me to make a couple comments or do a write-up. And what I'd like to share is having these agreements out there where you can source equipment does not preclude you from doing the bid process ourselves. And what we tell the departments is ultimately you can go out and look for this equipment, bid the equipment, as long as it's like. In other words, this is listed, it's spec'd out. You got to beat it by $1. You can beat it by $1 and you're good. You can go with the equipment that you bid, or if you can't, then you can go to the bid list, the Sourcewell or the state bid list or whatever. So to the question you have, which I think is part of your concern, and if I miss, please shoot back at me here, but it would not be an issue. It would be a little bit more labor and a little more time intensive for the administration, but they can go out and look for bids, advertise locally. Maybe somebody can go out there, find a source, even with their markup, and beat the state bid list, for example. They got to beat it by $1. And if they're smart, when we go out for bid and we spec it, saying we're probably going to buy off the bid list, but we're bidding it anyways, they'll pull the bid list and beat it by $1. And that is an option. So you do have other options here, and hopefully that helps and adds some clarity to a confusing issue.
Jeremy? Did you want to comment to that? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, with that, we kind of looked at that option, but then when you go out to a competitive bid, we're going to have to have full specs and documents ready to bid on that. So there will be additional costs on that. I know it's not going to be the price of the generator, but you will have additional costs going on top of this, where this Sourcewell, they have done the legwork for us. So that, like I said, that's where I felt it was the best route for us to go in this situation.
But
Mr.
Jeremy,
Baumann.
oh, I'm sorry.
I guess perhaps clear as mud. I guess what I would say is I trust the process. I think you've done your due diligence, and we should move on.
Mr. Wobser.
So Jeremy, you've already spec'd something out, correct? Otherwise, you couldn't have gone to Sourcewell and for them to say, okay, this is what you're looking for. You've got the specs.
Go ahead.
Correct. We have a spec of what we have, but when you go then kind of to the bid documents and stuff, you would have to have an engineer stamp off on them and all that kind of stuff. So I can't tell you how much that additional cost will be, but you will have an additional cost for someone to stamp off on saying, yes, this is the generator you need. Because if I just stamp them and say, yeah, that's a generator, and all of a sudden we buy it and be like, oh, well, I need this part to it, I need this part to it. So you would have to make sure it's to a T with that. We are doing that through the process, but with the source, working with Sourcewell, we're working with CAT directly as they're seeing our plans to get that customized generator for what we need. So it is an option. We can go through that if you guys feel that is what is needed, but this is an avenue that we wanted to use to get this equipment moving because of the 90-week lead time on that.
Mr. Russell.
So the way I would understand this is that the Sourcewell is an alternative state minimum or the state bid process. And so was a generator like this on the state bid, or is it too rare to make the state bid list? And if it was on the state bid, do you know what the difference in cost would have been to have you go to Sourcewell?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure it was on the state bid. I'm guessing it was not on the state bid because looking at the Sourcewell, there's 100 different type of generators that you can kind of choose from on that. The state bid is kind of the, you have your different types. I can't tell you yes or no on that. I'm guessing no, because when working with CAT, we asked them those kind of questions, and they brought up the Sourcewell type alternate for that.
Mr. Wobser.
Last question then, Jeremy. So if you go through this and we're just buying the generator, correct? Getting that so you can get your 90-week lead time clock started. And then at some point you're going to come back to us and say, okay, we need X amount of dollars to place it, get it hooked up and running.
Go ahead.
Correct. So you'll probably see at the end of 24, whenever we, get a decent
end of
date for
90
that,
weeks.
we will be, sending that out for bid for installation. And we can say, we have the generator and stuff secured. This is when it's going to be coming. You can expect to install it at this date.
Okay. Next.
Ready for the next one? Second reading for ordinance 2023-33, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for the construction of various projects listed below, appropriating and transferring funds thereto, and declaring an emergency. Second reading for ordinance 2023-34, an ordinance authorizing the service safety director and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into contracts for various projects, appropriating and transferring funds for said capital expenditures, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell.
This is
Oh, okay, no problem. Mr. Russell.
This is in our capital plan. The capital plan's been distributed. Once again, there's opportunity to move forward, and therefore I'd make the motion that council statutory rules be suspended and ordinance 2023-034 be given its third reading.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All those in favor of suspension of the rules say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
The rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give the ordinance its third reading.
Ordinance 2023-34.
Mr. Russell.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2023-034.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer? Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2023-35. An ordinance amending ordinance 2022-119 of the codified ordinances of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to extend the current moratorium on the establishment of any skill-based amusement businesses in order for the city of Findlay, Ohio to consider incorporating the proposed additions into the current zoning code as outlined below before enacting them as part of the codified ordinances of the city of Findlay, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2023-36. An ordinance amending one section of codified ordinance 2022-81 as amended, known as the salary ordinance of the city of Findlay, Ohio, and repealing all other parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2023-37. An ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2023-38. An ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency. And first reading for ordinance, add-on ordinance 2023-40. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to enter into a contract or contract extension with ACP Green and Associates LLC, doing business as Planning Next, to provide consulting services and implementing a strategic plan for the city of Findlay, funds there, I should have had it, appropriating funds thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Old business. New business. Mr. Russell.
Once again, making sure that everyone knows that April 13th, so a week from Thursday at noon, in this very room, a planning and zoning meeting. I believe we have one rezone request, and we'll also continue our discussions on zoning code updates.
Mr. Greeno.
Yes, I'd like to schedule a water and sewer meeting for April the 11th at 4:30. We will be discussing stormwater rates and also a report from the auditor concerning water billing internal controls.
Just a reminder to the strategic planning committee that on the 18th, we will have another strategic planning committee meeting at 4:00 p.m. here in council chambers.
Any other new business? Ms. Mayor?
Just want to make sure we go to executive session.
The mayor's requested that we adjourn to executive session. I need a motion to do so. Mr. Baumann?
Moved.
Second, Mr. Hellman. All those in favor of... I'm just... Go ahead and... Understand that. I was just going to say that. Thank you for interrupting.
I suppose
Mr. Baumann.
therefore I would amend my motion to discuss property, meeting to discuss property and no further action be taken in executive session.
Second, Mr. Slough. All those in favor of adjourning to executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. We are adjourning. That concludes the public portion of tonight's meeting. I appreciate everybody coming. And